Hey guys, welcome to lesson 4 for space science. I'm going to be your captain as we journey out to space here today on our ship of the imagination. That's why I have our Millennium Falcon front view here, because we are going to be kind of traveling and looking at some space and sky objects today. And we need a ship of imagination to do that. We're going to be looking at items from smallest to largest. So right now, I want you to think, and you don't have to write this down. After this, you can press pause and think about. I want you to think about the largest object in space. What do you think is the largest thing out there? Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right. So now that you thought about this, we're going to look at some sky objects. I'm going to show you some pictures, and your job is to, in another document, in another tab, you're going to record every object. And I think there's about 27, but you can do it. You just need to write down what it is. So as you should have another tab open like I do right here. I'll have this posted for you guys. In today's lesson, we'll blast off in a ship of the imagination and rank sky objects from smallest to largest. Get ready to rank 27 sky or space objects. Don't worry, you can press pause at any time. So if you need to write those down, just press pause. Let's begin. All right. This is the slideshow I'm going to be using right here, and we're going to start with the smallest objects. Let's see if I can actually make that bigger at all for you guys. Nope, I don't think so. Okay. So starting out with the smallest is most meteors. Sometimes when you think of meteors, you think of like the big giant one that killed the dinosaurs. So not counting the trail of light, meteors can be very small. They're often only millimeters in size, like the size of sand. Meteors are sometimes called shooting stars, but they are not really stars. They are dust or small rocks that fall towards the earth. And the heat and air white hot as they travel through the atmosphere. They could also be rocks as large as a kilometer, although these are extremely rare. So it can be as small as dust or sand that's falling back towards the earth. And as it's burning up, it gives it that streak. That's why it's called a shooting star, because it looks like a star is falling, but it's not really a star. Stars are much bigger. So next up, in size-wise, we would have birds. We look up in the sky and we see birds. So the smallest bird is a hummingbird with a wingspan of about 10 centimeters. And the largest bird is an albatross, which has a wingspan of 3 meters. 3 meters. Think of those yardsticks I had in the classroom, 3 of those. This, I think, is just a seagull. Satellites. Satellites come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. A lot of them are orbiting our Earth right now. They are helpful for satellite imagery as well as things like TV and internet. Next up, we have the space shuttle and spaceships. We actually asked at NASA, they are no longer using the space shuttle. The space shuttle retired in 2012, and right now they're developing a new rocket launch system called the Orion, and they're still working on it. In fact, they're using Russian Soyuz capsules to get up to the International Space Station right now. We have no functioning spacecraft in the United States, which to me is a little bit sad. Funny thing about this picture, it's not a very good picture because that should not be there. That's a cap on the end of it when it was being transported on an airplane. A spaceship like this is smaller than most schools, still very large, but it would be smaller than Evergreen. This is the International Space Station, and it's actually even bigger than this since this picture was taken. Right towards the end of school, you guys saw me bring in that model, the Lego model I had of the International Space Station. It's the largest human-made satellite. In fact, you can sometimes you can track and figure out, and you can see it going across the night sky if it's above us. It's really cool. Next up, we have small clouds. Clouds can be very tiny. Some are smaller than the school, and some are larger. So number 6, you should have small clouds. Let's travel even further, and now we're looking at some asteroids. Asteroids are small, rocky objects orbiting the sun. More than 90,000 have been discovered. Most are found between Jupiter and Mars. There's actually what we call an asteroid belt between Jupiter and Mars. They usually have an irregular shape. Asteroids discovered so far range in size from 940 kilometers in diameter, the asteroid Ceres, for example, to just 10 meters in diameter. Some are smaller than a school, and some are larger, but none are larger than the moon. Some comets, not counting the tail, so when we're talking about the icy rocky body and not measuring the tail, comets can be many sizes, but they are usually less than 10 kilometers wide. Comet tails can be very long. They can be longer than the sun's diameter. This means that comets could go into 5 different categories as far as their size goes. A school. This school is bigger than our school. But just to give you a reference point, the next items we're looking at are larger than a school. And this is a very big 3-story school. So think of something about the size of Cedar Woolley High School or bigger. All these objects after this are bigger than a school. So this is another spaceship. This is the Apollo 11 on the Saturn V rocket. You probably are familiar with it because it was on my shelf. That's my Lego model. One of my favorite Lego builds ever. One of my favorite spaceships. It's the most powerful rocket ever created and launched into space. It's the biggest rocket ever sent into space as well. It is 111 meters or 36 stories tall. So think of 36 stories like a skyscraper. We're basically launching a skyscraper into space. Another way to think about it is it's 3 football fields long. So picture standing on a football, 3 of those long is how long it was. Some meteors, again, are bigger than a school. It's rare for a meteor to be larger than a school unless you count the length of its streak in the sky. Some black holes. Scientists think that black holes can be any size. In a black hole, matter is pressed tightly together. The gravity near a black hole is so strong that even light cannot escape. You can't really see a black hole. The size of black holes varies according to the size of what formed them. When giant stars, 4 to 15 times the mass of our sun, die, they can become black holes that would be larger than a school but smaller than the moon. There's also evidence of black holes formed from millions of stars all squashed together. These black holes could be larger than the sun, much larger. Black holes of other sizes theoretically can exist, but scientists do not yet have evidence of their existence. So this slideshow was published before they have a picture of a real black hole. I'll show you guys that in another lesson where they have successfully gotten a picture of a black hole. Most comets, not counting the tail. So most comets, not counting the tail, are bigger than a school. That's a pretty big chunk of ice and rock. That's pretty much what a comet is. It's a dirty snowball. It's a bunch of ice, and that tail is caused from all the dust and ice melting off of it from the sun's heat. It leaves that tail there. Some asteroids can be bigger than a school. And some large clouds are bigger than a school. Look at this huge one. This is a cloud that's developing during a hurricane. Some clouds can be more than 10,000 kilometers across. Sorry, 1,000, not 10,000, 1,000. Moon of Mars, named Phobos, is smaller than Earth's moon. planet Pluto. Um, Very terrible picture of Pluto there. We have since gotten better pictures of Pluto. Pluto, which we also consider a dwarf planet, is smaller than Earth's moon. All right, the moon, our moon. Everything after this is going to be the size of the moon or larger. Some comet tails. So if we measure the entire comet, including its tail, they can appear larger than the moon. The planet Mercury, the first planet from the sun, and not counting Pluto, the smallest planet, it's not that much bigger than the moon. It's about 4,800 kilometers in diameter across from there. Next up, moon of Saturn, called Titan. Titan's a pretty interesting moon. It's got a bunch of ice on it and possibly water underneath. A lot of scientists want to research Titan some more. Some moons in the solar system are larger than the moon that orbits Earth and larger than some of the smaller planets. Titan orbits the planet Saturn. Mars. Mars is smaller than Earth. It's roughly half the size. So if you go to Mars, you're gonna weigh a lot less. You're not gonna have as much gravity pulling you down. Planet Venus. Venus is just a bit smaller than the Earth. Sometimes you can even see Venus in the night sky. It is between Mercury and Earth. It's called Earth's sister planet because they're similar in size. It's the hottest planet too. It's got a big toxic atmosphere. And Earth, our home, our most important planet, life as we know it. So now we're going to look at objects bigger than the Earth, but smaller than the sun. So everything is bigger than the Earth, but smaller than the sun. Some comet tails. Some tails are bigger than the entire Earth. That's pretty crazy. Neptune, planet Neptune, beautiful blue gas giant planet. Now considered the last planet, the 8th planet, now that Pluto's a dwarf planet. Neptune is named after the god of the ocean, the Roman god of the ocean, because of its blue color. Uranus. Uranus is bigger than Neptune. It's about 51,000 kilometers in diameter. It is after Saturn and before Neptune. Saturn is our second biggest planet, one of the most beautiful planets, and this is not counting its rings, but the planet as a whole. I always call it the beautiful diva planet because everyone loves Saturn. It looks so cool. It's a gas giant like the other two planets, and it has these rings. And I'll talk more about what these rings are made of later, but the rings are very fascinating, very cool looking. And next up, Jupiter. Jupiter gets its name from the Zeus, or the king of the gods in Roman and Greek mythology. It is the largest planet. It's also, to me, one of the most beautiful planets with these cloud patterns and that beautiful atmosphere. It has a red spot, which is a giant hurricane that has been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. Jupiter is really cool. Very cool planet. They're all cool. But Jupiter, I just love the patterns that we can see from the atmosphere. And I encourage everyone to look up more about these planets. So some stars. Some stars are not as big as our sun. Our sun is a medium-sized star, and stars can be much bigger than the sun, much smaller, or about the same size. Every star you see in the sky is a distant sun. So why does our star, the sun, look so much bigger than others? I hope by now we can all answer that question. Why does our star look so much bigger? Well, you should all know by now, it is so much closer. It's still very, very far from us. It's 93 million miles away, but it's so much closer than these other stars. And we'll talk more about just how far those stars are. the sun. So now we're looking at I should say space objects that are bigger than the sun now. And the sun is huge. We talked before about just how huge the sun and how many millions of Earths our planet could fit into the sun. It's big. But it's just a medium-sized star. So some stars are bigger than the sun, much bigger, and we'll look into a little bit about the different sizes of stars and even look at how big some of them are. Some comet tails are even longer all the way across than our sun, which is pretty mind-boggling to think about. Our solar system, right? There's a model, pretty inaccurate, but showing you the order. Our entire solar system is made up of the sun, the planets, moons, asteroids, and comets. A system is a group of objects that form a whole and move or work together. Sol is another name for the sun, which is why it's called the solar system. The sun is the biggest thing in our solar system by far, but the solar system is much bigger than the sun itself. It's about 60 trillion kilometers in diameter when measuring out to the Oort cloud far beyond Pluto. This picture shows the planets in the solar system, but doesn't show the way it really looks because we can't take a picture of the solar system. We are inside of it. So our solar system is all the planets, every object orbiting the sun. We're stuck in the gravitational pull of the sun with all these planets, with everything else in there. And Sol in Spanish for sun. So solar system is one way to remember that. Supernova. A supernova is an explosion of a very large star, and it leaves all this beautiful stardust. People love these pictures of supernovas. You can see them in different colors and things, and far off things. It's really awesome to see. Nebula. Look at that. Nebulas are amazing. A nebula is a cloud of gas and dust in space. The nebula is made of the material from an exploded star. So first the supernova is when the star explodes, and the nebula is what's left. It's what's born out of a dying star. It's pretty radical. If you just want to look up pictures of supernova and nebula, NASA has some great pictures. There's some great real pictures to find too. Don't find the computer animated ones, but the real ones. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. Some black holes are bigger than the sun. The galaxy, any galaxy, our galaxy is much bigger than the sun. It's filled with stars. It's much bigger than the solar system. There are billions of stars in our galaxy. Our solar system is part of the Milky Way galaxy. Maybe you've had a Milky Way candy bar. It gets its name from the name of our galaxy. When you see parts of the Milky Way, it appears kind of like spilt milk in with the stars from all that stardust, and that's where it gets its name, Milky Way. Our galaxy has 200 to 400 billion stars. It is about 100,000 light years across in diameter and 3,000 light years thick. Most galaxies are smaller than the Milky Way. And finally, as we get bigger, we have a portion of the universe. And at first, this picture just looks like distant stars. It doesn't look like anything very special. The universes are named for everything in space. Of course, we don't have a picture of the universe, but this is a picture of a part of it. Astronomers picked a relatively boring part of the sky and, using the Hubble telescope, took a photo of a spot the size of a pinhead. The very tip of a pin, like the tip right there. Just, it was completely black. That they took a picture of it, and this is what they got back. All those bright blobs, those photos, they're not stars. They are their galaxies. So there's billions of stars in each of those blobs. Billions upon billions upon billions of stars. And you think about all the objects that could be surrounding those stars, other solar systems out there, billions upon billions of other planets and possibilities. Every single one of these is another galaxy. it boggles the mind to think about that. And I mean, as far as that goes, in the known universe, that's as big as we can get for now. So those are our 27 space and sky objects for a tour of the sky and the universe as we know it. Hopefully you got all those down. If you wanted to add a little bit of what I was talking about to it, great. If you just have a list of them, that's also fine. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.